Welcome to my wildlife year, week 10. I cannot believe we're actually in double figures. It's absolutely excellent to have made it this far. I feel it's a milestone for me. I planned on obviously doing it every week, but I wasn't sure whether I'd be able to keep it up and find enough stuff to keep it interesting for not just for you, but for me as well. And I have. And we're in March already. I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks once the weather starts to really start to improve and we can get outside a lot more. So let's crack on with my wildlife year, week 10. I went out with my bat detector early this week. I was not just wanting to record some bats, but record some bat facts, and that's because I've been asked to lead a virtual bat walk on Zoom. So I'm just getting together. So I thought I'd play a couple of bits that I've already recorded. Whether they actually make the final bat walk or not, I don't know, but I thought I'd share. There's just over 1,400 species of bats in the world, making them the second biggest mammal group in the world after rodents. Just when I started doing bat walks just over 20 years ago, about 1999, 2000, I used to start off my talk by saying there's 950 species of bats in the world. We've now nearly 50% more in that time. Some have been newly discovered bats, others are species that have actually been split into two or more. We found that, and that actually includes one of our most common species, the common pipistrelle. Up until the 1990s it was thought to be just one species, but in the 1990s it was found out that there's actually two, and it wasn't until this century, after 2000, that the pipistrelle, soprano pipistrelle, Pipistrellus pygmaeus, was given its scientific name. The common pipistrelle bat is called Pipistrellus pipistrellus, not very original, but Pipistrellus pygmaeus tells us one thing about the soprano pipistrelle, and its common name, the soprano, tells us something else. Soprano tells us it's slightly higher pitched than its peak frequency, slightly higher than the common, and pygmaeus it tells us it's smaller. Now, when I say smaller, it's only about 1 millimetre smaller. You couldn't even tell if they're in the hand whether it's smaller or not, but it is generally found smaller. So let's go and see if we can find any pipistrelles. These pipistrelles have been out for a while and it starts to get a bit darker. What you'll see on the river, skimming across, is the Benton bats. Now, you can actually tell they're the Bentons without the need for a bat detector, because they're the only bat that will skim back and forth across the water. Now, if you see a large body of water or a flat, a relatively calm river, and you see a bat skim across it once, all you can say is it's a bat, because that's how bats drink. They skim across the top of the water, open their mouth, and scoop up. But if you see it flying back and forth across the water, that's a Benton bat, because they're the only bat that actually flies and feeds over water like that in the UK. I've had the moth trap out overnight, and I know without even looking in it that I've got something, because look at this. I've got a moth on the outside, so I'm going to try and get it in this tub. Now I'm going to have to put the camera down. You're not going to be able to see me do this because I need both hands. Well, I've got it in the tub, and it's a new one for me. I'm not sure what it is, so I'm going to have to go and look up the books. But I popped this in the top of this tub in the top of my moth trap, and that'll keep Penny in there until I get the chance to check what's in the trap. Right, well, we already know we've got something from the moth trap, but I think there's more in there, so let's go and see. Oh, I should say, I've obviously got this on my head. Fingers crossed I've got it recording. It's always a bit of a gamble whether it's recording, but if it's recording, then we'll be able to see what's in here. I've already got over there. Right. Let's see. Right. Make that 2 more moths. Possibly not. I was going to say possibly 3, but it's only 2. Definitely. Alright, so 1 more moth down there. So you can coax it into the top. There we go. Now, I'm looking under the rim. I'll just take my camera in. Nothing in there. So we've got 4 moths in the moth trap, so we'll go and have a look and identify them. So we've come through to my office. I've brought my 4 pots with the moths in it. Go try and identify what they are using my trusty field guide of the moths of Great Britain and Ireland. If you're going to be mothing it, this is a book that you really need to get. So let's see what we've got. I use this little light to get as much, put as much light in the subjects as possible, so that I can take some good photos. Flash does work, but I find it sort of like it's too harsh, whereas this light is a lot better, and I can also move it around to control the shadows. So I put the moths on a bit of paper so that I can actually move the paper and get them lined up right, so that I'm not sort of like, you know, taking photos squint all the time. So I'll pop these 2 back in tubs. Pretty certain they're both chestnuts, but I'm out of practice with my mothing, so I'll just check with an expert that I know. Just turn you over, right? See, I can move the moth around so that it's facing just the right way for me to take photos of it. Now this one, I'm pretty certain is a Hebrew character. This will be a first for me. They don't come out, they come out quite early, so I never started moth trapping until June last year, so all the Hebrew characters would have passed by then. For this one, I've already had a look through the books and I cannot tell what it is. I've been through the book 3 times and I just cannot work out what it is. So I'm going to take some photos of it, send it to an expert, and hopefully he'll be able to identify it. This is always risky when you've got a moth that's going to fly off if it gets too warm. If it warms up enough, if you've got lights around. So the trick is to take photos as quickly as possible. I'm not going to throw this moth away, not that I think it will be, but just in case it's something that is fairly rare and a specimen is needed, I won't release it just yet. 4 moths of 3 species is pretty good going for what, first week in, well, just into the second week of March. So I'm really pleased with that. So I'm looking forward to a lot more moth trapping throughout the year. So the 4th species that had me stumped, it was actually a fairly obvious one if I'd thought about it, because quite often we have some moths found in the during the winter, when the most common is a winter moth. Then in December it's a December moth. In March it's a March moth. This is a male. The female is flightless and gives off a scent that attracts the males. So yes, March moth. So that's 3 species in one night in March, which is pretty good going in my opinion, especially this far north. I've just checked in the main small mammal trap, humane one, and there's a mouse in it, so it's a young one, so I'll go and take it and release it. Right, as I said, this is a very young mouse. It's actually quite docile as well, which is unusual for a mouse, and it's a young female. So pop her in a tub and take her for a release. Picked a bit of a different spot to release the mouse in, so there's plenty for it to hide in here. There it all goes, or doesn't go, as the case may be. There it is, off it goes. A couple of days ago I got a lovely surprise in the post. A little parcel came and I wasn't sure who it was from because I didn't recognise the handwriting, and my 50th birthday's coming up, so there's a bit of debate, do I open it or don't I? So we played it safe, got my wife to open it, and she handed me and says, no, you can open it just now. So I opened it up, lovely little note inside along with this hand painted sexton beetle. It is gorgeous. This photo here doesn't do it justice at all. It's by someone that lives here in the Borders, Susan Bourne, and I would say she's a talented artist, really great. Is really into her wildlife as well. If you've got the chance, find her on Instagram or Facebook. Just search for @the_farmhouse and give her a follow. You won't be disappointed. And thanks again, Susan. This is gorgeous, and I still haven't found the right place for it yet, because I want it somewhere where people will see it and will say, oh, what's that? And I can then talk to them about sexton beetles and carrion beetles and what they do, and just champion them. So thank you again. I'm really moved. I've been inspired by Nick Baker's live Instagram yesterday and decided to make something to keep a few woodlice in. He was showing us his isopods, and I'm going to start off quite small. You can go out and buy sort of a big tub and stuff like that, but I like to use things, as I've mentioned before, in my wildlife here. So I've got this was, I think it was a trifle from Marks and Spencer's that came in it, quite sturdy, and came with a lid. I have taken very carefully with a craft knife and made lots of holes, small holes in it for ventilation. So I'm going to go and put some substrate in it and then put some woodlice in it and keep them for a little while and watch them and see how they got on and how they interact with each other and what happens. Right, I've come out into the garden, quite a nice day actually, and I've just got to collect some soils to start with. Dexter's decided to supervise me as I collect the soil, so just pop in, don't want any too big of stones in it, so just pop in a good amount of soil. Right, let's see, that looks quite good, about 1.5 inches, that'll do. So that's first, and then what I'm going to do is collect some twigs and some leaves and put them in there, so it's a nice damp environment for the woodlice, and then it's going to collect some woodlice. Right, so just put some leaves in here, some fresh, some a bit more, bit older, so basically some dead and some live ones, a few sticks, a couple of wee stones. Now let's go find some woodlice. Come out looking for some woodlice, but I found something else that's very interesting but not such good news. Come and have a look. Right, this thing right here, not this, this is a centipede that's running about. This thing here is not good news because it is a New Zealand flatworm, which, I'll try and unroll it. That's its top, and underneath it's that colour. Right, so it's not good news. The reason for that is it's come over from New Zealand and it likes nothing better than to munch in earthworms, and it can actually eat all the earthworms in one area and then curl up and go really small and basically go into sort of like mini, it's not even a hibernation, it's almost a mini death state. Then once there's enough worms again, it comes out of that and then eats them all up. Now I'm glad I'm wearing gloves. I've handled them with skin before, with my bare skin before, but you have to watch because your skin can get irritated from the mucus that's on them, so it's just as well I'm wearing gloves and don't have to worry about that. But this, because it's actually a non-native invasive species, I couldn't, even if I wanted to, well I could if I wanted to, but it would be illegal for me to release it. I wouldn't be releasing it, I'll be killing it. So keep an eye out for New Zealand flatworms. You can often tell where they've been because they'll leave sort of like mucousy bits. Can't really see it here, but they leave sort of like mucousy bits. A bit like there's been a slug, but rather than a trail it will just be a sort of like one big sort of like globule bit. But this one won't be eating any more worms. Interestingly, this bit of the garden I'm in here has very poor drainage. If it rains at all, it fills up with water, and I reckon that's because of these guys, because I find them up this end of the garden fairly regularly, unfortunately. I've given it a bit of a clean up and you can see underneath it's a bit speckledy and the top is a lot darker and it has this sort of like border along its edge that's a tiny wee bit speckly too. I just mentioned there about sort of like, you know, slimy bits and mucus showing where New Zealand flatworm's been, and I've just moved another bin and found some. So here's what I was talking about. You can see it right here. It looks a bit like slug slime, but it's not all over the place, it's just in the one bit. So like, you know, a big globule, and you can see it's all stuck together. And it actually disappears very fast if you just touch it. So that's actually an indication that there's been a New Zealand flatworm under this bin as well. I wonder whether it was the same one as I've just found. There's two ways to dispose of New Zealand flatworm. One is to crush it underfoot, another is to drop it in some boiling water. I've just crushed this one, sort of like completely underfoot. I've found some woodlice. Let's go and look. So here's one here. Very gently just pick it up, pop it in there. There's another one. These are rough woodlice, the common woodlice. I actually grew up calling them slaters. I don't want to put too many in. Put ones in different ages. So I can see them grow. Just trying to be gentle. Any more in here? A couple of slugs and snails, but I don't see any more woodlice. Okay, so you can see that they're all in here. They're all going to hide away, find somewhere dark. Woodlice are are crustaceans, and they've got 7 legs, and they're really interesting. They've got little gills underneath them. If you turn them over, you can actually see them. And they actually, although the females lay eggs, they lay eggs inside little sacs, so they actually carry them inside them. So they give birth kind of to live young. So I'm looking forward to seeing how these got in here. I'll keep you updated in the coming weeks of my wildlife here. You can see they're just exploring their new environment. So this is it all set up, and I'm going to put it out of direct sunlight and somewhere reasonably cool. This room, although it's got a boiler in it, it never gets that warm, so I'm just going to put it up sort of halfway down this room, away from the window at this end, so it doesn't get direct sunlight, but not too close to the boiler that it gets any heat off it. But I'll just put it up on this shelf here, and I can take it down and look at it every so often. If I just need to actually relax, I can watch my woodlice and feel the stress just drain away. So look forward to seeing how these go in the next few weeks. Well, that's my wildlife year week 10 over and done with. Hope you've enjoyed that. Hope you're able to join me next week for week 11, which also includes a rather big milestone for me, which is my 50th birthday. And next Friday, I believe it is, that my crowdfunder to raise funds for a community project that I want to get up off the ground closes. And also Monday, this coming Monday, I will also be leading my small mammal workshop, British Small Mammal Workshop. So exciting week ahead for me, and I hope you have a great week too. See you next week. Cheers.